Evolutionary.org, episode 539 coming your way. Today we have a fun one. We have funny and shocking gym stories. We've heard a lot of stories, Mobster and I, over the years. We've heard stories online. We've heard stories from forums. We've had personal experiences. So this one, we're going to talk about some funny ones, some shocking ones, some really, really disgusting ones, because, sometimes in gyms, especially when you're in the locker room, you see things that you don't want to see. So I'll start Mobster off with your first story, Mobster. Why don't you hit us with a good story to start us off?
So this was funny for the guys in the gym, and I've actually had this happen to me, but seeing it with someone else was even funnier. So guys, you know that a lot of pre-workouts contain products, ingredients especially, that make you feel that the product pre-workout is working. One of those ingredients is beta-alanine. Beta-alanine actually is like a little bit like creatine, and you get 1 to 2 extra reps, which is why it's in pre-workout products. But the tingle is that I can feel the product working, and the tingle is called paresthesia. So what happened, there was a product over here called TNT, and it looks like this little short stick of dynamite. It's actually like the pre-workout drink, premix, 300 milligrams of caffeine, beta-alanine. And one of the lads at the gym was kind of sweet at the same time as he's quite a good cricket coach or whatever else. He's not used this product. And he takes the full shot, which you don't need to. You can drink a half shot or even a quarter shot if you're not used to it. And he hasn't got no idea. And of course, I think it was the guys, maybe myself included, go on, yeah, take the full shot, it's hardcore, all that kind of bullshit. And then he starts but yeah, he starts freaking out, guys. And I think it didn't help that the rest of us were laughing our heads off. And he's running up and down. I mean, literally running up and down the side of the gym, rubbing his face, going, I don't like it, I don't like it. Which just made us laugh more, Steve. It was one of those, he's not going to die. It won't kill you. But he is freaking out. And it's a bunch of guys in the gym used to joshing each other well. So you just know that we're not helping. We're not trying to calm him down. And he's running up and down like a little kid that's had his like first sweetie ever. He's going hyper. And it was just for us the funniest fucking thing we'd seen all day, Steve. We just thought it was, oh, you'll be okay in a minute, man. So yeah, it was one of those weird situations. And I had made the big mistake myself back in the day with my supplement company. I hadn't looked up this ingredient. I hadn't looked up to see what happens when you take it. I knew that you got a boost in the gym. And I had the same thing, but I didn't freak out. Unfortunately for me, I was in front of a computer. I was able to Google very, very quickly what happens, realize it only lasts 10 to 20 minutes and it eases off. And then you're going to go to the gym and do what you got to do, Steve. But if you wasn't used to it, and especially if he was this particular young fella, he was full on freaking out, running up and down, borderline panic mode. And of course, us guys we weren't helping. We were full on like laughing our heads off and kind of almost pointing at him and whatever else. So yeah, back to you, man.
All right, so next one we're going to talk about is some of the things that we see, in the locker rooms, in the steam rooms, all the stuff in gyms. And I swear, I've always said this on the forum, officer. I've always said that when you walk into a gym and when you walk into a locker room, the IQ of people drops. 10 points, 20 points. I don't know how much it is, but it drops because people do the dumbest things in the gym. And I don't know what it is. It's like something, I don't know what it is, but there's been stories, all kinds of stories over the years, stories that we've seen. People, for some reason, they choose to go to the gym and throw up everywhere in the gym or take a big dump in the gym, diarrhea, all this stuff. Why can't you just do that at home? Yeah. I mean, why not just do it at home? Why do you have to take a number 2 in the gym locker room? Like literally you're there less than an hour, right? The typical workout is about 45 minutes. That's the average workout. So you're there for 45 minutes. You're telling me you can't go 45 minutes when I'm taking a dump? Doesn't make any sense to me. Never has. Public bathrooms. I avoid locker rooms like crazy, but I've seen some of the craziest things. I walked in locker rooms and seen guys using hair dryers to dry their balls after a shower. I've seen guys go into the bathroom and just fucking butt-ass naked walking around the locker room socializing with people. It's like, dude, like have some decency, bro. Like put a fucking towel on or something. I've seen people I've seen so much disgusting things that I'm scared to even like go into a gym locker room these days. Like I avoid it. Like if I have to lock something up, I'm keeping it in my car. I'm not gonna lock it up in the gym. One of the stories that I read online was of a woman who was working in the gym, like she was the person who goes around, cleans machines, cleans the bathroom, stuff like that. Well, she took it upon herself to build a nice little business for herself on the side. And her business was blowjobs in the steam room. So people would walk into the steam room and she'd be giving someone a blowjob in the steam room. So there is some wild and ridiculous things that happen in gyms. So my steam room story is a little disgusting and a little funny. I have a buddy of mine, and when we go work out, he always insists either he wants to go into the sauna or the steam room or in the pool or something. I don't know what it is. Like he has this in his head that he has to like warm his muscles up, and then that helps him in the gym lift more weights and feels more relaxed. I don't know what it is, but we went to his gym and he's like, Steve, let's go to the steam room just for 5 minutes. Let me warm up my muscles. So I'm like, okay, fine. All right, I'll go with you to the steam room. So we walk into the steam room and I'm expecting it just to be me and him. And we're both in our shorts and, we have a towel under us and it's nice and, and we're after 5 minutes, we leave, but I walk in there and there's a bunch of fucking 12 or 15 old ass wrinkly dudes, butt naked. And the only thing they got on them is like a tiny ass towel. So they're sweating all over the fucking steam room. I go to sit down, and as soon as I sit down, it's like a puddle of sweat that I'm sitting in. It was the most disgusting thing. One of the most disgusting things I've experienced. 2 days later, I end up getting like a cold or a fever. And I basically got sick. And I think it was from that. I think it was just being exposed to a bunch of old, sweaty men in a fucking sauna, in a fucking steam room. So you won't find me going into a steam room or a sauna ever again. That's disgusting. One of the other weird things that I've seen in a sauna was a guy going to the sauna, take his bottled water and dump it on top of the coals in the sauna because like I guess it caused more steam to come out. So so it's just like there's always like someone doing like really really dumb things like in these places. So I just avoid me personally. So go ahead, Mobster. What's your next
Yeah,
one?
I mean, so we'll do a serious one, which is this kind of shocking one, guys, and then we'll tell you some other funny ones. So it's not like full on horrible or whatever else, right? So some of you might recall this particular incident. It went around very, very, very quickly on Facebook and on YouTube, etc., and it was on the news in the particular country where it happened. And we still see stuff like this now, Steve. Sometimes, I mean, there's a bunch of amusing videos. We know people doing silly things in the gym. I think there's a page called Gym Frackery that has that specific kind of stuff on. This particular one was proper full on serious. So I think it was, I'm going to say Brazil, but I know for sure it was South America. And it ended up doing the rounds all over the world. And what it is they've got a CCTV, closed circuit camera, set up in a gym to look on the gym floor. And the camera's kind of looking to the left, there's a Smith machine and there's an instructor. And then he's to the left-hand side of the machine, and just behind the bench, which is set up underneath the bar on the Smith machine, is this woman and her daughter, the way the story was told. And you can find this video if you want to see it. Not that you probably don't really. And she says something to the gym instructor, and I believe the story was that he said it's like 4 plates a side, because that's what's on the machine. So that's 160 kilograms, which very quickly is 352 pounds. And she looks like a fit mama MILF. But she's not big or muscular. She's just kind of fit looking. And the daughter's just like, 12, 13, 14, 15-year age, something like that. So this was not someone that's going to do 160 kilos, 352 pound squat. And some machines are counterbalanced. So you're either lifting the bar as well as the weights, or you're just lifting the weights. And I believe the PT supposed to have said something to her like, it's this amount of weight. You should be very, very careful. And then he turns away, but he's still nearby, but he's not looking at what's going on. And she gets under the bar with no warm-up, Steve. and folds up like a pretzel. And unfortunately, as she folds up, she's ended up face down with her chest and her stomach and her hips still on the bench. There's no, some Smith machines have got little safety things you can sew that goes down to depth and it will stop with on the springs but that's not what's happened here. And the bar is right across her neck and she is killed, we believe, more or less instantaneously. It broke her neck and killed her straight away. If you watch the full video, because there's shorter versions of that, and that kind of where some of the videos end, there are people running over and they're grabbing their plates, and because there's no sound, you can only assume that the young girl, the daughter's screaming, and the PT's yanking plates off one side, people yanking the plates off the other side. And it's one of those kind of stories in any other situation would be funny or comical or whatever else. If you set the safeties, like I said, there's little leverage you can put to the bottom of Smith machine and other stuff like on leg presses or whatever else, where there is always been in the gym a potential for harm or danger or whatever else. But for the most part, 99.9% of these stories are all going to be, what the fuck was that idiot doing? They've hurt themselves, but they've learned a valuable lesson and, you know, they changed the policy of the gym. But every so often, someone's got killed on a bench press. And in this particular example, there is straightforward actual video of her getting killed using a Smith machine on camera. So yeah, that's the shocking one. It's not, unfortunately, because Steve and I have been around the game a long time, the only one. There will be stories about injuries and biceps getting torn and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But this is probably, in the last 2 or 3 years, the biggest one to do the rounds on something that absolutely did not need to happen. If she'd have listened to the instruction, she'd have realized that that is a shitload of weight, followed what she was supposed to do, put the safeties in, whatever. So yeah, you can find it out there, guys. So 100% shocking. But like I said, guys, we're not going to keep this super dark. We're going to do light and crazy and lessons we've learned and mistakes that we've made. So yeah, back to you, Steve, for another one.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, people think Smith machines are safe and all this, but 24-hour gyms that have Smith machines, they found people the next morning dead. You know, they walk in there and they be still people working in the gym. They just don't know because they're on the other side of the gym. So got to be careful with those damn Smith machines. They're not as safe as people think. So I have a couple stories of fights and arguments that I've gotten in. So if you guys want to learn a little bit about Steve and what peeves me in these couple situations, I think in those instances I could have handled them better. But so the first instance was I was working out at a meathead gym, and when I went and signed up, I specifically asked the guy. I was like, one of the reasons I signed up at this gym. They have a nice mat area where you can do cleans, you can do clean and jerks, you can do military standing, military presses, and then on the way down, I'm not saying that you can take the weight and just slam it to the ground, but like if you're trying to push really, really heavy weight. And, you can really push yourself a little bit on cleans and jerks, where if you fail on a rep, the weight can come down, but there's a nice thick mat there and there's rubber weight. So you're not breaking anything. So one day, I was working out at that gym for a year and a half. I mean, and nobody ever bothered me. Like nobody had ever an issue with me doing clean and jerks. And then when I get back down and I kind of bring the weight back to like my chest, I will carefully drop the rubber weights and the bar back down, so, and, this is great. Clean and jerks are a great powerlifting routine. And I've been doing them since I was like 15 and I have really good form. I know what I'm doing. But out of nowhere, this woman just like in the middle of my fucking set, she like comes up to me and I'm like, yes. I'm like, I got my headphones on, blaring music. And she comes up to me and like taps me on the corner. She's like, can you keep it down? And I'm like looking around and there's like 3-4 people working out like close to me. She came out of nowhere. Like she came from like the hallway. She wasn't even in the gym and working out herself. It's like, I don't know who the hell this woman was. So she just comes up to me and interrupts me in my workout when I'm trying to bust my ass. And she's like, can you keep it down? You're being too loud. And I'm like, ma'am, I don't understand. Nobody else here is complaining. You came from all the way across the gym and you're going to come up to me and like harass me. And I'm like, who are you? And she's like, what do you mean? Who am I? What does that matter? And I'm like, ma'am, I mean, you can't just I'm a paying member here. You can't just come up to me and like harass me during my workout. So then I was like, you know what? Why don't you go to Planet Fitness? And then she got pissed. And then she like looked at me, big eye, she walked away and she started cursing at me in some language. It was German or Russian or something. So
She was
then
hitting
like
on you, man. She was hitting on you, but she doesn't know how to do it
maybe,
properly.
maybe. So then she leaves, right? She goes back into the hallway. I don't know if she worked there. Maybe she worked in the back office. So then I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. So I went up to the front desk and I'm like, can I talk to the GM, please? Can I take the general manager? So I talked to the general manager and I'm like, dude, when I signed up to work out here, okay, you said we could do clean and jerks. You said we could do deadlifts. You said it was no problem. You said you could drop that shit as long as it was on the mat. You're using rubber weights. You said drop that shit. So he's like, okay, hold on. So he goes to the back, and I guess he talked to her. I guess she worked there or something. Maybe she was like working the back office or something. So he comes back like 5 minutes later, and he's like, man, he's like, look, I mean, you can't slam the weight like that. He's like, it can ricochet and hit the mirror, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, that's not what happened. I'm like, I brought it here and then I got the weight down. It was under control. It wasn't like I brung the weight from above my head and just slammed it on the ground where it bounced, near the mirror. And he's like, okay, we don't want any trouble. And I was like, all right, good. I'm like, so I'm good. I showed him my lift, and I'm like, I'm good if I do this, right? And he's like, yeah, you're good. I'm like, okay. So that was it. And then later I saw the lady like on the front desk, like behind the front desk. I went up to her, I'm like, ma'am, I apologize, blah, blah, blah. And she just like didn't even like apologize back. So at the end of the day, people, at the end of the day, people,
You
So the
just
other,
reminded me.
yeah,
Sorry, I'll jump in with one here. So you just reminded me, right? So
get one. Yeah.
I'd had equipment made, and in order to have equipment made, like the cables and stuff, you got to know what kind of cable you need and how strong it is. And I had a small piece of equipment made for a buddy, and it was for a company that makes like the counterweights and things for theaters, the curtains and props and stuff. And the whole time the guy was putting this thing together for me with the cables and the clips and whatever else, he's explaining the whole thing to me. So I had that information. And in Gloucester, when I lived and worked in Gloucester with my business, I was using a gym there called, doesn't exist anymore, so I can say their name, Gymnation. And Carol Callahan, she's actually a Facebook buddy of mine now. She was on like the gym committee. So if they had anything new coming to the gym or they wanted funding or whatever else, she was probably one of the people that was actually going to all these meetings to get this stuff sorted out. And she also worked on the desk. So Caroline's kind of cool. But Carol was kind of cool, but she had no knowledge about these things. And admittedly, I had got into this whole habit of pinning weights to the stack. I do this in my home gym here because I know what the cables and the clips are all about. And I think I had 55 kilograms pinned to the stack, it was a 100-pound stack, and I've got another 110 pounds. It's a double ratio pulley, guys, for those of you who know. It means there's more than one pulley wheel. So when you pull it like a foot, it moves 2 feet and all this kind of weight. So that means I'm only pulling, I was doing press downs. So on paper, I was doing 210 pounds, but in reality, I'm doing about 140 pounds on press downs. And there's a camera in the gym, and she's only just through the reception, literally just a few feet away. And she sees me with all these weights, and she's never seen it before. And she kind of freaks out, like the same with this lady. And again, Carol's really cool, but it's probably our first like proper conversation or something. So she comes in, what are you doing? What are you doing? She said, excuse me. I said, you can't do that. You'll break the machine. Said, no, I won't. Yeah, you will. Look how much weight you got. You can't put like 55 kilograms or whatever the hell it is onto that machine. You're going to break the cable. I said, no, I'm not. Cable's like 5 mil wire rope. It's got 267 kilogram, which is like nearly 600 pounds or something. Break and strain. I've only got like 210 pounds on it. I said it costs like £7 to replace. If I break it right now, first off, I hurt myself, so that's me. And secondly, I will pay you for the cable. So she goes, obviously muttering or whatever at the gym, and I carry on doing my set. Bitch, give me fucking shit, whatever. So I get another couple of reps, and then obviously I calm down and I come out, and she's cool. And I literally went on her computer for her, and I said, look, this is calculator online where you can do this stuff and you can see these things. The wheel can take 500 kilograms. The cable can take 267 kilograms, like 500-600 pounds. There's all this. I knew this stuff. The woman that has worked there and was doing the committee thing and was involved in the funding of this community gym didn't know these things. And maybe, why would you expect her to? And not only that, the person I'm really risking is myself. And maybe, if I did fuck the machine and I didn't give a shit, I'm kind of fucking things up for gym members because I've broken the machine. But again, it's just one of those weird ass conversations that I never expected to have because to me it was kind of normal behavior. And she's never seen some crazy idiot. with 55 kilograms pinned on the stack. So it's one of those, like you said, with the back room girl. Carol is actually a bit more hands-on. But again, she's thinking about how much it's going to cost to fix the machine if I break it and all that kind of stuff. And the worst that would have happened is that the cable might have frayed and split. And I'd have got a busted nose from hitting the handle into my chin or my nose or something stupid like that. So really, I'm risking myself the most, or back in my tricycle or whatever else. And I'm happy to spend, at the time, £7 on eBay to replace the cable. But we had to have that conversation. And it's like you're doing there, Steve. You're getting interrupted in the middle of a workout. What the hell? I'm fine. This is perfectly safe. I'm not going to break it. I'm not going to hit it with a hammer. It's just like, guys, there are some gyms have rules and we understand it, you know. But I knew what I was. I've owned, had my stuff made. I've got that kind of equipment here at the house, Steve. I know, for example, that if you have those cables that are incredibly strong, it's aircraft type cable that pull like levers and stuff on airplanes and aerialons and things. That's what it is. They have a breaker strain of £1,500. The only reason gym cables break is because they get wear and tear going over the pulley wheel. I know I've training like 20, 30 years at that point in my life, 40 something years now. So I've got so much experience with those things. But the person you're talking to is new. The person you were speaking to has probably been in the back office, never comes on the gym floor, and they see you doing what they think is like, what the fuck is he doing? He's doing some fucked up random crazy shit. And you know that you're perfectly safe. I know I'm perfectly safe. Or I'll fix it myself. I will pay for it to fix. I will get you the cable on eBay and I'll put it on the machine myself. I know that it needs a certain number of clips for every 50 kilos, and you've got 2 clips on there already, you're fine. But she doesn't know that, and your woman doesn't know what the hell you're doing. So it's one of those, I don't want to argue with the gym owner or with gym members of staff. I want to be cool. But there we are. And as far as they're concerned, we're the crazy person. But they don't see it. Back to you.
So I got a couple of quick ones that interruption. One time I was on a cruise working out. There's literally nobody that takes a cruise that is going to spend time working out. It's very rare. But I was there and I was working out, manning my own business. I was literally the only one in the cruise gym. And some British guy, I don't know, he had a British accent. He comes up to me. He's like, with his fancy British accent, and he's like, no offense, mobster, but he comes up, he's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you wearing your clothes? He's like, why aren't you wearing shoes in the gym?
That's the worst accent. That's the worst accent ever, Steve.
That's the worst accent ever. And he comes up to me and he's like, why are you wearing sandals in here? He's like, you need to wear shoes. I'm like, sir, there's like nobody working out. Like, what do you give a shit like what I'm wearing? He's like, well, a weight could fall on your foot. And I'm like, dude, like this guy doesn't even look like he works out. I don't even know.
I had that happen.
It's like, dude, like
twice.
There's nobody in the gym. Like, what do you give a fuck if I'm wearing sandals or I'm wearing sneakers? Like, it's a fucking cruise gym here. Like, leave me the fuck alone, bro. Like, when I work out from home, I work out barefoot. Like, so because I'm wearing sandals, like, dude, leave me on your own fucking business. Another time, another quick one. I was working out and I was doing squats, like really, really heavy squats, like 3-4 plate squats. And you know, I was doing box squats, so I had the bench behind me. So I brung the bench and I brung it and I put it, I had my headphones in, and maybe, you know, when I put the bench down, this what's the guy, like, I don't know, maybe he got triggered by that. I don't know. But he comes up to me and taps on my shoulder. He's like, dude, can you keep it down a little bit? I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, what's the problem here? He's like, you're being loud. Can you please keep it down? I'm like, dude, like I'm squatting 3-4 plates and I brung, like, how is that being loud? Like, it's just like, it's mind boggling how people, they just want, it's kind of funny how they like interrupt you. And this guy, he's one of these guys who wears a belt and he's got gloves on and he's like doing like 85-pound squats next to me.
Yeah,
that's
what it is.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, like, mind your own fucking business. I'm not bothering you. Don't mind me. So we got into a little verbal spat. And then at the end, I was like, bro, I apologize if I offended you, blah, blah. I went to shake his hand and he wouldn't shake my hand. So I was like, whatever. So then this guy from that worked in the gym came by. And I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, like this, I'm like, I don't have any issues, man. I'm minding my own business. I come here all the time. And this guy is like, you know, telling me I'm being loud or not. I don't see anyone else complaining. I don't know what the problem is. And the guy's like, oh man, he's like, we don't want any problems. So then this guy, he's like, he grabs the bench and he like goes around in a circle and he like drops it. He like slams it down. He's like, that's what you did. I'm like, dude, that's not what I did. Check the fucking cameras. So, dude, it's just one of these fucking people. I think you're right, Monster. They're like intimidated. you
Yes,
know,
that's what it is. Yeah.
and they're
You're
like
too big, you're too
offended, you
strong,
know?
you're a
Yeah.
gorilla to him. He's a
Yeah.
chimpanzee and he
Just
can't get his brain
mind
round.
your own fucking business, you
Yeah.
know, and with this type of things. But so really I'll do another funny one and then Mobster, you can do
Yeah,
one more
I got
story.
one more before
Yeah.
we finish this. So
Okay.
this is way back in the day. I used to have a little gym power rack. I think still got the power rack now in the house. And it's the same power rack I've got here in my home gym. And you see my home gym, it's on another level now. But back in the day, power rack, bench, dipping frame. I think I had a pull down machine or something then. Anyway, the woman I was living with, Sue, her son, whose name I can't remember, it's a long ass time ago, he wants to train, and obviously it's kind of cool. The son wants to train with, you know, the boyfriend is impressed by what I can do. I'm making a name for myself in the whole iron game way back in the day, Steve. So, you know, he knows what he's doing, and he says you can show him how to lift the weights and all the rest. He says, yeah, fine, no problem. And it's nice. You get your hook up with this woman, you're living with this woman, so you're having a cool kind of relationship with the boy. Fine, it's lovely, no problem whatsoever. And I think he was already like a dad with a kid and stuff, so he'd have been in his early 20s or something. And I'm thinking, I'm going to say I was 40-ish at the time. So it's great. So, and we've seen this a couple of times, Steve. It's one of those like, what the hell? So we're bench pressing, and I think I just finished my bench press, and I'm going to say I was doing 110 kilos, 240 something pounds on the bench press. So it's like I was using a normal bar, not an Olympic bar, and 220s and a 10 on each side. I'm going to say it's 109 kilos, maybe 235, 240-ish. I said, oh, we need to take all the weights off for you, or we'll take it down some weight or whatever else. I think we'd finished benching. So he takes all the weights off one side when I've got my back turned. Well, you know what's going to happen, Steve? The bar just flips up. How it's not hit me in the head or smashed into my arm or my shoulder or something, I don't know. But it's one of those bars with the screw ends, you know, with the screw locks that go on, not normal, just slide them on, slide them off. This, you have to spin the collar around until it, with the little rubber thing tips up against the weights. And it's got into the floorboards, and we're upstairs. So the girlfriend Sue's sitting downstairs, and it sounds like God's just decided to have an earthquake, right? And she's right, I mean, right underneath this bar, underneath where the impact is, sitting on the sofa. I run downstairs to make sure that the ceiling hasn't caved in. And she's like, what the crowed crazy, as you imagine. It goes to the bar, she said, the weights have come off, it's gone in the floor. What the fuck? Said, there's no cracks in the ceiling, you're okay, right, back upstairs. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. The problem is, Steve, it's just, he's only made or punched a hole in the floorboards the same size as the end of the bar. But worse, and this is kind of the funny bit, it screwed itself into the floor. It's not hit the ceiling panels, it's not gone through the beams or nothing like that. But I've got this 50 something kilo, 110 pound plus the bar, so 120, 130 pound thing, and it's screwed into the floor. And I have to unscrew it at the same time as I'm trying to lift it out the floor. It had made a perfect circle hole in the carpet. How it hadn't gone through the ceiling, how plaster hadn't come off the ceiling, or plaster the ceiling panels had come off, or whatever, God only knows. And please God, it had literally only broke this one small piece of wood, but it could have been so much worse. I could have been injured. The floor could have broke up. I would have had to replace floorboards. All that kind of fucked up. What the hell, Jesus Christ, what's going on kind of stuff. It's funny now, but it was like super what the hell serious at the time until we realized it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. But yeah, guys, I mean, we could do more. There's not a man alive that's listening to this podcast that hasn't had their short split or whatever else, and with your asshole and your balls and stuff hanging out or whatever because your legs have got bigger or you're doing deep squats. There's so many. On the comments, guys, post up your stories for the other listeners to share. Let us know what's going on. Give us some more stories. Tell us on the forums, and we'll do another of these funny and crazy and shocking gym stories for you if you let us know what you've been up to, guys. Please note, we are not doctors, and opinions are ours. It's our viewing based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.